to allow city officials, including your members of council and the administration, to better understand the needs and desires of our community as it comes to the collection of solid waste in the city of University Heights. As many of you are aware, in May of this year, the solid waste collection study by GT Environmental Services was finalized and presented to council. There is a link to that report on the University Heights website, and this will be an opportunity for us to hear public comment. I see joining us this evening, we have council members Barry, Ertl, and Rock, as well as Mayor Brennan. We're also joined by Service Director Jeff Picorni, unless there were anybody else that joined after. I don't see anybody else. What I thought would be helpful for us is, before turning to the list of people, as we have people still joining us, is to allow a brief presentation by the mayor and Mr. Picorni on the potential options that are outlined in the report, and really three of the major ones were to do nothing and stay with collection as we have it, to have a semi-automated collection, or to have fully automated collection. And then under the semi-automated or fully automated options were the options to keep those services in-house, or to free up city workers to do other work and to have a contract for those services. I'd like the mayor, I asked the mayor to present kind of the administration's vision for what the service department could be should we select one of these options. And I asked the service director to give us some numbers based on his analysis and the analysis that's inside of the report of the costs, financial costs and savings that could be had with each of those options. So unless you prefer a different order, Mayor, I think I turn it over to Jeff first and then come to you before turning it over to public comment. Is that okay?
That's fine with me. Mr. Picorni, fine with you?
That's fine with me.
Wonderful.
Then,
okay.
Mr. Picorni, if you could start, please.
Thank you, Councilman Gould. The study was looking at the year 2018, and it took quite a while to get done. It did finally come out in its final form in May of 2020. The study was based upon looking at our solid waste collection methods. So they did a similar study 10 years earlier in 2008 that came out in 2009. So the dollars we're looking at in this study look at the 2008 study, and they look at the 2018 study. In looking at our method of waste collection, we do a manual collection in the rear yards. So they took a survey of how many houses we collected, how many misses we had, how many times we had to go back, how many people put their containers out at the curb versus putting them in the backyard. They analyzed our routes and how they ran, how many houses per route. We run 2 routes each day, 4 days a week. So we have an A route and a B route, which requires 1 garbage truck and 2 rubbish scooters per route. So on any given day of the week for 4 days, Monday through Thursday, we have 1 garbage truck on 1 route, 1 garbage truck on another route, and each garbage truck has 2 buggies following them. The buggies go up the driveways, collect the rubbish, bring it back out to the garbage truck, and dump it in the garbage truck on the street. Also, while they're doing that, they are collecting recyclables. Recyclables go in the front of the cart, and when the front of the cart gets full, they dump those out into a pile on the side of the road. And for that reason, we've always had blue bag recycling, because the recycling has to be contained in a way that we're not dumping garbage on people's tree lawns. So that's the general method. They looked at that method. They looked at the method that other cities use, And then they provided quite an analysis of both cost, time, and effort involved. As you go through the study, and we could go through that, however, Councilman Gould indicated that it is online if you wanted to connect to that link and look at it. They did a survey of quite a few of the other communities within the Cuyahoga County area and took a look at the fact that of the 59 communities in the Cuyahoga County area, 38 of them are automated, and automated means that they have rubbish carts. The material comes out to the curb in a rubbish cart, and an automated truck with a grabber or hook lifts that and puts it directly into the garbage truck without anybody else touching the garbage. So 59 communities, 38 do it that way. Of the 59 communities, 21 of them still do it manually. That means that the garbage cans come out to the curb. They don't use carts because you can't lift them manually. Well, there is some of them could be manual with carts, dragging the cart over to the truck and using a tipper on the back of a rear load truck. But most of them, the manual collection is still picking up the garbage bags and picking up the cans and throwing them into the back of a rear load truck. So they took a look at those methods and they provided us some analysis in the report for that. And then they got into economic analysis of doing it in a number of different methods. I guess the gist of the economic analysis when they got to it indicated that we were one of the more expensive methods of providing service. So the city of University Heights is paying approximately $23.74 per household, and that's a per month cost. The low in the county would be Oakwood at $6.73. So there's quite a grade. However, the vast majority of them are below the $12 to $13 mark per household per month, which indicates that we are significantly higher, probably by about $10 per household per month. That's a pretty significant fact considering we have 4,272 homes that we collect every week. As we get into the average cost, they had the side door, back door service that we provide at the $23.74. They were considering the fact that we could bring it out to the curbside and collect it that way. We would reduce our cost down to about $18.90 per household per month. And if we automated, we would be down lower than that, down to around $14 per month. So, and I don't know if I looked at the right chart on that for those numbers, but we'll get into it a little further here. Yeah, the automated cost actually, if we provided new trucks, new carts, and et cetera, we'd be at $21.34 per month. But that's doing it in-house with new equipment. They also analyzed going out to a private hauler and doing it. They looked at a recent bid that was provided to the city of South Euclid, who uses Kimball. That is also a fully automated system. Kimball goes down and picks up the rubbish carts after they're brought out to the street. And their cost, it looks like, was around $18.93 per household per month. So there's significant cost savings in automating and privatizing outside. The majority of those costs can be found in the reduction of manpower. As I had mentioned, we have 4 carts running around each day. Those carts are manned by people running up and down the driveways. Those 4 employees are part-time for when we have part-timers. A lot of times we have part-timers that leave and we have to replace them with full-timers on the route until we can get more part-timers. And for that reason, in some of these charts that are provided, you'll see a difference in manpower. However, basic analysis is that we could eliminate the 4 carts, which would eliminate 4 employees who are driving those carts. And we could eliminate, depending on which method we pick, up to 3 full-time employees providing the same rubbish service, because the automated service is basically done with one garbage truck, automated operator picking up the carts and dumping them into the truck. And then right behind him would be a recycling truck providing the same service, picking up recycling carts and dumping them into the recycling truck. In addition to that, they looked at some of our numbers, and we've had some discussions at other committee meetings about recycling. And our recycling is rather low, in the 5 to 7% of our total waste. A lot of the other communities that have automated are in the range of 18 to 24%, 25%. So automating and providing carts for people for recycling would obviously increase our recycling considerably. I think that's pretty much a general analysis before we get into actual dollar numbers of how we do rubbish and what they're telling us about the cost of the method that we currently use.
I think, the summary that I would like to hear was you did an analysis on what the potential savings was. You outlined that, we would need to maintain 10 people on service in the service department to maintain other functions, for instance, snow removal, irrespective of the method of waste collection that we choose. That right now, with our 4 part-time and 13 full-time service workers, department workers, what would be the potential savings, let's say on I guess the very end of the spectrum, which would be the private collection, so a contract collection fully automated, if we reduced those 3 full-time and 4 part-time positions?
Certainly, yeah. The analysis would be that we would drop from using 13 people on rubbish collection on a 4-day-a-week basis down to only using 5 people for rubbish collection. The 5 people would still, and those are full-time service employees. Actually, we'd be up to 7 people, correct? Because the 5 people represent. We would drop to 5 people if it's fully automated with outside sourcing. So private outside source, they would be driving the garbage trucks and picking up the rubbish. We currently have 13 people doing that, but it also includes yard waste, bulk special pickup, and the maintenance of that equipment with 2 mechanics. Those people, the yard waste, bulk pickup, and mechanics, would still remain on our staff while privatized. So we would still have 5 people involved in the rubbish department. We would eliminate the 4 part-time positions, and we would eliminate 3 full-time positions for an annual savings of $327,000 and some change.
Now, and I know that the mayor's going to discuss kind of what we could do as a city with a service department, what his vision for the service, department would be if we had those resources. 5 people would still be left over to do other tasks in the city, and I know he will outline that. But right now, my understanding is that we contract out for seasonal leaf collection, for roads, and for catch basins are some of the major contract costs, as well as tree pruning. Have you done any analysis to determine what the reduction of potential contract labor would be if we were to now reallocate those internal positions to doing that work?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have taken a look at that, and we're looking at a round number of about $200,000 a year of work that is currently contracted out that we would be able to do in-house. That would be manhole repairs, roadway repairs for Cleveland water patching, catch basin repairs, curb drains, some sewer repairs, sewer laterals and cleanouts. Those are all things that are currently contracted out, along with the tree pruning work and tree planting work, which could potentially be done in-house as well. So approximately $200,000 worth of work that we could do in-house with our current staff, even reduced, if we weren't doing rubbish collection.
So a little over 300,000 for the actual labor costs internally, and then an additional 200,000 for the contract costs. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. There was some questions, and I don't know if you've done the analysis. I think there was one question that came up regarding maintenance. If we had the outside contractor, we would not be performing maintenance for the automated system. That would be up to the contractor. Is that right?
That's correct. However, we still have snow plowing equipment and street sweeping equipment and backhoes and other things. And we will still be doing bulk yard waste collection under the numbers that we're looking at, along with yard waste collection. So those numbers wouldn't change for the mechanics.
Okay.
Completely. I mean, if you look at the actual budget line items for work done on rubbish trucks versus plow trucks and other equipment, there would be a reduction there, but we haven't calculated it to that point.
Thank you. I appreciate the summary. What I would like to do now is to turn to the mayor to kind of present, what the vision for the department would be if we did make one of these changes, what you'd like to see and what the potential could be. So Mayor, I'll turn the time over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I was mayor, when I thought about our city's service department, I thought about trash and I thought about recycling pickup. Weekly pickup at our houses, and special pickups ordered for bulk items. And I didn't think of much else. But as mayor, I've gotten a much closer look at everything our service department does. Every pothole that is patched, every water main excavation that is repaired, sewer maintenance, laterals cleared out, catch basin cleanup and repair, street sweeping, snow and ice removal, storm emergency response, from windstorms causing tree damage to the flooding problems that are caused by heavy rains, urban forestry, park and public property maintenance, including the pool and recreation, maintenance on the pool, the tennis courts, the playground equipment, the painting, the building maintenance, pulling weeds and spreading mulch, setting up the chairs for the Memorial Day parade, digging the holes to plant trees on Arbor Day, and finishing up the planting after the kids all take their turns shoveling in dirt. Every concert in the park, every turkey giveaway on Thanksgiving, every holiday light on the city grounds, every time a tennis court net needs replacement or adjustment, assisting the police and fire departments on major events, from the Memorial Day parade to the recent Black Lives Matter protest. If something is moved from point A to point B, or emptied or filled, painted, installed, removed, planted, watered, weeded, mulched, cleaned, or repaired throughout the city, within municipal facilities, up to and including the maintenance of all the equipment they use to get it done. 50 pieces of service equipment, as well as performing fleet maintenance on 16 vehicles in the police department, 10 more in other departments. All these things are done while picking up trash 4 days a week. It isn't like our service department can skip a week of trash pickup to catch up on other things. Take leaf pickup. Every year, our service department makes a round trip around every city street, not once, not twice, but 11 to 13 times a fall season, to rake up and vacuum leaves left piled on tree lawns. We have 32 miles of streets, so figure 64 miles of tree lawn. The distance between University Heights City Hall and Conneaut Lake Park in Conneaut Lake, Pennsylvania. Or Cedar Point Amusement Park, but that's actually 4 miles closer. But imagine traveling that distance on foot, raking the whole way 13 times, and picking up trash 4 days a week. Since I've been mayor, I've fielded plenty of calls, often about things not getting done or not getting done fast enough. So Basically, that's the same thing. A few of them are about orange barrels that are left where repairs need done. Sometimes they're standing there for months. Weeds in the park that go unpulled. Residents notice, and I'm told that they pay too much in taxes to see that. Well, we all do pay a lot, and it's worth asking, are we getting value? Truthfully, we could be doing better. The city runs lean in most ways, but not in how we pick up trash. Since 1966, the city of University Heights has had backdoor and side door pickup of trash. It is labor intensive, it is equipment intensive, it is time consuming. And the time spent picking up trash is time not spent filling potholes, fixing sewers, pulling weeds, or any of the other tasks I described just a few minutes ago. In February of 2019, I asked City Council to commission a solid waste study, our first in 10 years. We got our draft findings in July of 2019 and the final study in May of this year. The cost of our backyard pickup program as of then, as Mr. Corney just referenced, is $23.74 per house per month. After our study was final, South Euclid opened bids for their new, replacement contract on curbside, automated, privatized. South Euclid, a private contractor, is now doing that work for $14.90 per house per month, a difference of $8.84. Multiplied over the 4,272 households over 12 months, that's $453,173.76. This in a city that didn't find the money this year to buy 2 new police cars at $59,000 each equipped. $450,000 is real money. Now, to be fair, and as Mr. Picorni outlined, the $450,000 is savings is quick and dirty math because it doesn't take into account the costs associated with maintaining the other functions of the service department. Even without trash pickup, we have to maintain a certain level of staffing to ensure that the roads are plowed and salted in the wintertime. There is no outsourcing of snow removal. As a matter of service and public safety, nothing can replace our own staff operating our own equipment and doing that work timely. The actual savings and labor costs associated with the change in method of rubbish pickup would be closer to $327,000, as Mr. Picorni said, because we would be eliminating part-time staffing, 4 positions, and eliminating up to 3 full-time positions over time. This could be done through attrition. We have at least 1 retirement coming up, and short of that, through a reduction in force. However, even if we started this process today, this would not happen overnight, as a transition to privatized curbside automated would take, at minimum, about 9 months. And a transition to in-house curbside automated with the equipment acquisitions necessary would take closer to 20 months, upward of 2 years. To be clear, this is not merely about saving money, though we will. This is about improving service. Our service department, liberated of picking up trash 4 days a week, would now be freed to work more efficiently on all of the other projects and tasks that I described. Road repairs could be made in days, not weeks or months. Sewer repairs, the same. Work that we've previously privatized, our contract for emergency repairs, our tree program, our mainline sewer televising and cleaning programs, portions of these programs could be moved back in-house. For example, in 2019, we used our emergency repair contractor for 3 storm sewer lateral repairs, for 11 catch basin repairs, and 13 roadway repairs. This was at a cost to the city of $91,323. What was the emergency that required the use of the emergency contractor? Time. The fact that we were out of time. All those repairs are repairs we could have done in-house, but we just didn't have the time. Our service department picks up trash 4 days a week, minimum, because special pickups are usually caught up on the 5th day. I have heard from more than one resident on more than one occasion that we pay so much in taxes that backyard pickup is the one thing we get. Well, in a way, that's right. We spend so much on backyard pickup that there are other things we don't get or don't do an addition, or don't do as well, or don't do as quickly, because that is how we spend the money. That is how we use the time of our staff. And I suggest that we can do better. What I would like to see for our city is an overall improvement of service, repairs done properly, maintenance kept up, and key to that is making people available to do the work. Curbside automated pickup is well regarded in the communities that have it. That task can be done cleaner, with no direct handling of the trash, which is safer, it is cheaper, and better than what we do now, with an overall improvement to recycling, as we would finally be able to move on from using blue plastic bags for our recycling. The latest recycling bid was $69 a ton for loose recyclables, but $96 a ton for bagged, and that's the rate we had to take, because tearing open thousands of bags every week just to throw them away is wasteful and labor intensive. The cost to our city to operate the present program of backyard pickup isn't just the labor and equipment cost, though, it is the opportunity cost as well. The loss of time that could be spent doing other things to maintain and beautify our city. Modernizing our trash pickup allows us to better serve our residents, not only on trash pickup, but on all other public service tasks as well. Our city can have a true public works department instead of public works being the side project to trash pickup. I share all this with you because I've had the benefit of seeing it up close. It's not that I don't like backyard trash pickup, but knowing now how much it costs and what we miss out on that we could have, we could do better. And as your mayor, I want our city to do better. And that's why we're here tonight, to hear you, to discuss it, and eventually decide how to best dedicate our public resources to serve you. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you so much for that presentation. Mr. Picorni, I appreciate the information that you provided as well and the analysis that you did. I'd now like to open up the portion of our meeting for public comment in order to allow individuals to know that they were in line and to express their desire to speak. We created a pre-registration and have 14 individuals who have pre-registered to make comment. I will begin in the order which we received those. There's no requirement that you pre-registered, and if you are here in the meeting, you'll be given an opportunity to speak once we hear from those individuals. The first resident up is Wynn Weiser, 2177 Jackson. Ms. Weiser, you have the floor.
Never be too fast to turn something in. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Picorni, and then a couple other questions in reading through the garbage survey. You said the elimination of 3 full-time positions and 4 part-time positions is what would be required to save $327,000. Am I correct on that?
3 full-time, 4 part-time, correct.
Okay. Even if, and then you came up with a $200,000 savings for what?
That would be releasing the additional people that are involved in rubbish collection besides the 3 full-time, 4 part-time, to be doing other tasks such as sewer repairs, catch basin repairs.
So what you're saying is we could actually cut back even further than 3 full-time and 4 part-time.
We cannot, only due to snow plowing and other things that we do seasonally.
Okay. Of the remaining staff, because the mayor is talking about moving those to doing additional repairs, lines, are they all trained to do that?
They could be very easily, and we already have staff that currently do sewer repairs, catch basin repairs, road repairs. So yes, they are trained.
Do we need to get additional equipment to do that?
It depends on to what extent you want to eliminate the emergency contractor. If we wanted to do large storm sewers and culverts, things like that, we would need a larger piece of equipment, for example, than our backhoe. But that was not part of the calculation. The calculation was based upon things that we could do for catch basin repairs and the lateral repairs, as I had mentioned.
And this would absorb their 4-day full-time work as of this moment.
I don't understand the question.
Well, you said you're only eliminating 4 part-time, 3 full-time, retaining the rest of the staff that actually does the garbage pickup, and they would be moved to these other things because we need them for snow removal, which occurs during the winter and is somewhat not, and it's not a 40-hour, 8-hour day necessarily. There are days when we don't have snow. There are days when we're not plowing. Is the work that we currently have, would it provide 40 hours of work for each one of those individuals as you start to catch up on some of the stuff that is behind?
Say yes, we would catch up and we would actually be able to increase our service, as the mayor had indicated. There are things that we don't do today that we would be able to do.
Okay. In the garbage study, they indicated that, you know, the city of Shaker Heights does backyard garbage pickup. It does it for $5 per household less than what University Heights currently does. Have we looked at why Shaker can do it for $5 less per household versus how we do it?
They were included in the study, and I believe they also did the questionnaire. But I don't know any analysis that was done to prove why they had $5 less, or that the study actually indicated that.
The study does indicate that. The numbers are in the study, Jeff. And I'm sure you've read them, but probably may have forgotten them at this point. However, that is a substantial savings per household. So it may indicate that maybe the way we are doing things may also be a factor in the cost of doing those things. And I think that's, you know, one of the valid things that also needs to be looked at. It just isn't what we are doing. It's always cheap, you know, we always go to garbage pickup immediately because it is. It's a lot cheaper just to move to going to pick up and privatizing. And there are residual effects every time you do privatize. The other part of this is if Shaker can do it for, actually it worked out to $7.87 per household less than what we do. If we are also doing comparisons, did we look at potentially, in talking to a few people, I know that leaf pickup for some people is like gold. It's an amenity. And it could be the way we do it. I mean, we could change to bagging. There are other things and other ways we also could save money in terms of service that are outside of just turning around and focusing only on eliminating backyard garbage pickup. And I think those are things that are not part of the study and are not looked at. When you talk about public works, yes, public works, sewers, maintenance, all of that is important. The other question that we run into though is, would that be actually less expensive to have outside contractors and outside contractor do all of that work than actually doing it internally? Has any study been done on that?
Not that I'm aware of. This study had to do simply with solid waste collection.
I realize that. I'm pointing out that we are being told that if we eliminate backyard garbage pickup, and understand backyard garbage pickup is an amenity. It is an amenity like the park is an amenity, like the pool is an amenity. Some people don't use the pool. And some people would say, why do we continue to spend how much per year maintaining a pool that is only open for 3 months? The parkland, I mean, if we wanted to, we could look at that as an amenity and say, yeah, we also, since the mayor has started a rather aggressive program to provide infill in any empty lot, I'm sure a developer, we could turn that into money making if we wanted to. I'm not saying we should, so if there's anybody here that loves the park and loves the pool, I am not saying we need to get rid of them, but I am saying if we're matching amenity to amenity, it isn't just a simple matter of, hey, let's do just a garbage study. Because there are other things that also could potentially be looked at where we might find the savings are more, and it would allow us to cut the cost of, if we retain backyard garbage pickup, to cut the cost of that backyard garbage pickup, to actually look at how other communities are currently doing it for less than what we are. And that gets us to a point of, is this something we have to decide to do immediately? Or are there other things that still need to be looked at?
When are you through? Okay.
Justin, can't hear you, you muted.
There we go. Thank you. The next person that has signed up to speak, Dan Brack, 2451 Warrensville Center. Dan, you have the floor.
Dan appears to be muted.
I see Den. I don't know if Den is Dan.
Oh, I thought that was the same. Okay.
I'll move on. Kate Euler, 2448 Fenwick. Kate, you have the floor if you're here. I don't see Kate on the list of individuals present. I'll move on. Steve Sims, I do not see on the list of people present. Scott Banco.
I am here. I just unmuted myself.
There we
Can
go.
you hear me? All right.
I can. You have the floor, sir.
I am actually a neighbor of Kate Euler. I'm surprised she's not on. I see John Hissong's on, another neighbor of ours. So let me just start out that I kind of have a unusual situation. I have two different houses. I spent a lot of time in Texas, in Austin, Texas, where we have everything automated. So let me give you some, I try to scribble on the side here a little bit, but let me give you some downfalls of automation. First of all, for busy people like me, we're not always home to remove the trash can and put it in a backyard. So we always have to ask one of the neighbors, hey, I'm gonna be out of town, I'm traveling. Can you take it back? Then there's always people that just don't care. And then you're driving up and down the streets and 2 days later, the trash cans are still sitting out. Then what happens is city has to go in there. In our case, it's HOA. They have to go in there and then they have to fine the people, you know, so and so. The way the automation works, depending where you put it, the way the truck lifts the whole thing, a lot of time it bangs the tree. The trees have to be really removed clearly and all that. I don't know who would own the trash cans. In Austin, where I live, in a city of Round Rock, the trash cans are owned by the company that picks up. But the way ARM grabs it, it doesn't come perfectly and grab it. It grabs it and then it drags it, constantly breaking the wheels of the trash can, because it can't just grab it. The truck doesn't come in a line straight next to it. He gets close, then he grabs it with the arms, and then he drags it in position. So those wheels, they're dragged along the concrete, and then they fall off. Okay, so that's just wanted to say that it's not all perfect with automation. Now, these trash cans are large. Where I live, where I have a house in Texas, the provisions were made for these trash cans. Right now, if I walk in my backyard, and we have to have these 29-gallon trash cans, and they're overwhelming the backyard. Our houses were built in 50s and 30s. They really don't have room for these gigantic trash cans that needs to be for part of automation. I promise you, it'll make the backyard look even uglier, okay? And probably the only other thing that I'd like to make a comment, which I didn't realize that we were paying extra for putting everything in those bags. I would be willing to bet that there are carts that can do lifting and dumping of the trash from backyard into a cart the same way. In other words, the reason we went to these bags is because we didn't want our employees to lift heavy bags, from what I understand. And I feel free to correct me, but I promise you there are carts, because they're in a business to compete with that would allow somebody to pull the cart right up against it, and with some assistance to dump it. Obviously, I am totally against this. Again, I don't use the pool. I used to use tennis courts from time to time. I don't use a lot of, but this is probably one of the reasons I still live in University Heights. I can't tell you, sometimes I take my wife to Cleveland Clinic during the winter months, and we drive along the, the North Park Avenue, and you see those people in $750,000 houses in their slippers, dragging the garbage to the street, and it's slippery. No matter what you do, okay, we have snowplow service and all that. What happens? Middle of the winter, our driveways are packed with ice. So you're going to be asking elderly people dragging those things up front. And they're often, the piles of snow on the side of my driveway I just cannot imagine where you would actually physically put the trash can that the automated truck can reach, especially knowing how I see how it's done in my residence. So that's kind of, so my big point is, it's not all it's made out to be. I realize we could save money, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but obviously I am against it. And obviously, I believe this is one of, just like the previous person spoke, I certainly think this should be a big package that we look at to be able to save a lot of different things. Now, I just may want to add just a few things. I don't believe recycling is worth, if you do some research, a lot of that stuff that's recycled ends up in a trash anyways. There's plenty of studies that point that out. I believe, and I did not know, somebody put a link in here, I believe that if you allow people to make it easier to order special pickups, I think we could make some money and save money. I see sometimes people set out one bag of lawn, cut lawn or stuff, and then a truck comes by twice a week to pick that up. I don't really think that's necessary. As a matter of fact, I'd be willing to bet if we did it once every 2 weeks, it would be sufficient. So anyways, that's kind of my 5 cents, and I'll let somebody else have the floor.
Thank you so much for your comments, Scott. Christine Hudak, 2452 Fenwick. You have the floor.
Thank you, Justin. I think that one of the things that we need to look at is that we are attempting to make this a city that we can market. We want people to move here. We're putting new housing up. We're trying to make this a city that is attractive to folks that work at universities, the hospitals, wherever. If we're trying to market the city, most people are not going to see that we're moving our city workers to fix sewers. they don't see sewers. They don't see the trees that are planted unless they want one on their front lawn. They will hear from other people that there is backyard garbage pickup. And they will hear that the city provides that as a service. We do pay a lot in taxes, and I understand that most of that goes to the schools. But it seems to me that if we want to market the city as somewhere where it's a really nice place to live, then we need to provide some amenities. And as Wynn said, I absolutely agree with her. Not everybody uses the pool, the tennis courts. Um, not a lot of people use some of the other amenities we have or the park, but we all use garbage pickup. And it seems that if we are going to move people from trash pickup, or I'm sorry, solid waste, that's the politically correct term. If we're going to move people to city services from there, that's going to benefit the city, but it's not going to benefit individuals. And the fact that most of us want some value for our dollars, and we want continuing home values to be high, you have to provide that kind of service. And just from another standpoint, the other thing I agree with Wynn about is we need to look at all of our city services and how we do them. I looked at the same report that Wynn did, and I also saw $5 less in Shaker Heights. And I have lived in Shaker Heights, and they do the same thing that we do, backyard pickup. They have their recyclables separated into containers, not in blue bags. And maybe we need to look at this as two issues for the garbage situation. One is recycling. We need to educate people. And the other one is backyard pickup. And I think you have to separate those two. Because if we say we're not going to recycle or we're going to recycle a different way, that's appropriate. But saying that we want to reduce the cost, the easy target, solid waste pickup, I think we can't afford to do that if we want people to live here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments, Christine. Kim Banco, 2435 Fenwick. Kim, you have the floor. Okay, next on the list, John Hissong, 2441 Fenwick. John?
Thanks. I am really, really opposed to dropping the backyard pickup. We've lived here close to 60 years. We've had backyard pickup most of the time. It's one of the big reasons we're here. My mother's 93. I have a bad back. These massive trash cans, and as Scott has pointed out, they typically break down over time. You don't even have the wheels. You're trying to drag something that's absolutely enormous in and out. My own sense is that this is one of the essentials in the city. It's one of the things that makes University Heights what it is. And as Christine pointed out, and also Wynn, it's something that's really attractive to people. You've got professionals, doctors, lawyers, whatever, work odd hours. It is can often be very, very difficult for them to move the bags in and out. And this is such a great, great service. My own sense is that the last few years, there's been a lot of waste in the government. I've seen our audited surplus just disappear very, very rapidly. I know there's been some new hires. My sense is I was really, really opposed to the new ladder truck at $1.8 million. And to spend all that money on things that I think were not essential, and then to cut this really makes me angry. And I'm very, very opposed to changing it. So that's it.
John, thank you so much for your comments. Dina Goulder, 3798 Claridge Oval. Dina? Okay. Jackie Gould, 2200 Edgerton. Jackie, you have the floor.
Hi. I'd like to say a couple of things. One is that it feels to me like this solid waste issue is the low-hanging fruit, that it's sort of the easy thing to sort of pick at, literally, when it comes to cutting our budget. And I'm really opposed to it, and for personal as well as larger issue reasons. One is our driveway is almost impassable when it comes to rain, not rain so much, but sleet, snow. We pay a lot of money to have our driveway plowed, and even then, I've fallen down our driveway. I can't tell you how many times, and I'm no spring chicken. So I've not been seriously injured, but if I have to roll that large can down the driveway, I know that the cost is not going to be a city cost. It will be a cost to me because I'm going to get injured. And that is one of the reasons that this house was chosen, because that's something we didn't have to worry about, is to have our solid waste pickup. And so I'd like to say how opposed I am to that. I also think that up to the last couple of years, I considered myself to be pretty serious about recycling. And I realized that I didn't know a lot of the things that goes into recycling, and I was recycling in a wrong way. I wasn't recycling the proper things. And I think there are a lot of people that are like me, that looks on a package and says, oh, it says it's recyclable, so I'm going to put it in the recycle bin. And so I don't think we do a really good job of helping people to recycle properly. So I mean, I would like to see some of that done. And I even think it's a good idea to separate these two issues. Just because it's something that gets picked up doesn't mean that it needs to be the same issue. I think solid waste is different. So I'd like to, I agree with some of the other people that have spoken that we need to look at a bigger picture, because I think it does make University Heights attractive to live in. And to remove that as one of the things that we have as an amenity, I think it would be bad. I don't have children. I pay school taxes. I don't use the pool. I don't use a lot of things that have to do with our city. But this is something that I value, that I'm willing to pay for those other things. And I think that this is something that is necessary. It's necessary for us. I don't know what I would do if we did not have this kind of service in our home. I think that's it.
Jackie, thank you so much for your comments. Neil Gould, same address.
Hi, thanks for having me here and following up with my wife. Of course, I object to this process as well, but I'd like to point out a few things that haven't been mentioned. One being, I read this study, all 72 pages of it, and my analysis of it is that the difference, the maximum savings using the maximum automated approach to this comes to less than $200 per household per year. Well, tack it onto my taxes. Again, it's well worth the money. It's not. It is not worth risking our lives or our health or well-being. All we have to do is fall once, as Jackie pointed out, coming down our driveway with one of those carts, and there goes any kind of savings as far as the cost of our living in University Heights goes. The other thing I'll say is that when I bought this house 30 years ago, I was living in Shaker at the time, and I've lived in Shaker for on and off for about 50 years. And I chose this house in University Heights because the services were commensurate with the services in Shaker Heights. The taxes were approximately the same as the taxes in Shaker Heights, but the community was small enough that we could have interactions such as this, and we could impact what the community was and how we did things. And the responsiveness of our services, the responsiveness of the health and fire department and whatnot is very important to me. And as important to me is the fact that we have backyard pickup of our trash because it makes it possible to live here. And at the cost of less than $200 a year difference, if you maximized the automation in every possible way, as far as according to this report, is just not worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil, for your comments. Zach Faber, 2624 Eaton. Zach, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Councilman Gould. Apparently, I'm going to be the rare voice that's for this. I think I share Mayor Brennan's sentiments when I think of University Heights of what it could be instead of what everyone's remembering what it was. I have, I think about the problems. Yes, there are issues with doing this and helping our neighbors move large cans down slippery driveways and stuff. But I think of that as more of a challenge of the community. We can figure this out. And that's just, the personal aspect. As far as the financial, it's very simple, right? We can save money, and what can we do with that money, right? What else can we do in University Heights if we're not spending that money on trash collection? For one, we could probably increase our recycling, which I read the report as well, is abysmal. But right, like this was mentioned as low-hanging fruit, and that's the fruit you pick first. You do that because you have to start somewhere. We can continue to do more and more analyses to try to find $4 or $5 here and there, but time is money as well, right? You're going to have to make a decision sooner or later. I'm for it. Thank you.
Justin, you're muted. We can't hear what you're speaking.
Sorry. Bill Carlson, 2529 Laurelhurst.
Hi. I would like to talk about some environmental issues associated with this study. The first thing that gets me is these blue bags. They're just a complete waste and they're not environmentally friendly. For the 11 years I've lived here prior to the pandemic, I would obtain my blue bags going to Giant Eagle. But 90% of the time I go to Giant Eagle, I'd just use my canvas bags and I'd only go get blue plastic bags when I needed them to recycle. It just seems like a waste. We should pick something more environmentally friendly. The tubs sound like a great idea, maybe some of the larger bins. The other environmental issue I have is with the little trash scooters. I assume that they run either on gasoline or diesel, so they have some sort of carbon footprint and we're contributing to the pollution. Besides the fuel consumption, the maintenance costs, I think a couple people have mentioned. I think we could save a bit if we just moved to curbside pickup. I've been in my house for 11 years now. I bought it in September 2009. I didn't even know there was backyard trash pickup. It was almost a full month of living here, putting my trash out on the curb before I realized that I saw the little scooters and realized we even had backyard trash pickup, and I had to ask someone else in the city what was going on. So it affected me in no way when I moved here. I didn't even know it existed. And then about April 2016, until the pandemic began, I've been walking to the rapid station on Belvoir. So I just take my trash out to the curb. So it's been 4.5 years since I've even left my trash on my driveway for the city to pick up. And they seem to have no problem just going to my curb, picking it up. Along that lines, like there are people, especially on my street and me, that put out leaves or we put them in the craft bags. So there's a lot of people that are already putting stuff on the curb one way or another. So it seems like it's doable. And then on the study, I only had a couple questions. Like there wasn't much talk of like volume per resident. So I was curious to know how someone would decide what size bins we would use, who would buy them, and then how we would identify whose bin is whose. And that might just have to be a follow-up study, or city council would have to look into it. That's all the comments I got.
Thank you so much, Bill. That concludes everybody who pre-registered. I saw in the comments, Lisa Peterson would like to make a comment. I'll turn it over to her and then open it up to the floor. Lisa? Lisa, are you still here? I see Lisa Peterson's on the list, but.
Lisa is here, but she's muted.
Oh, here. I'm sorry. I was muted. Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
I can hear you now.
Very sorry. I don't have a camera up. So I'm on Edgerton here for 27 years. So I have a couple comments. I'll try to be concise here. I also think this is a pretty critical service, and there are lots of services in the city that I don't use or that are seasonal. And so I think that going to this first, we need to consider some other things. Also, I think I read the study as well, and it sounded like there may have been some efficiency to be gained on routes. They said something in there about routes. Also, they said that we spend a lot of time going back to places where people have locked gates or something like that to do, recovery. And in 27 years, they have missed my pickup, not because I have a gate, but just missed it only 3 times. So they're not coming to my house very often, having to come back out. Similarly, I think if we're still going to sweep up leaves that people have just swept out to their tree lawn, when we ask people to use craft bags that are easier for pickup, I think we could be more assertive about people following the rules and being, so we could be more efficient, I guess. I also think recycling, we could uncouple that from the other trash and say, how could we do that better? And maybe, it's a blue bin and maybe that people could take to the curbside because it wouldn't be a huge bin. So I think we should consider other sources of saving money. And I guess I would say my mother always said, don't complain if you're not willing to help. And so I have trained as a financial analyst. And if the city wanted to put together an ad hoc team to consider how we can be more financially like savings or effective, I'd sure be willing to volunteer to help. So that concludes my comments. Thank you.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you, Lisa. I'll pass your name on to Vice Mayor Weiss, who chairs the Finance Committee and works on some strategic issues around that. That might be really helpful. Thank you for that, your comment and that offer. Jenny Feldman, would you state your house number and street, and you have the floor?
Yeah, it's actually her husband, Nick Tranchito. We're at 2591 Traymore. And I just have a couple of questions. How many service workers are there in total? Can you hear me?
There are 20 people in the service department. There are 17 unionized laborers and foremen and mechanics. 17.
37? Is that what I mean?
17.
17.
Oh.
20 in the department, including myself, my assistant, the phone operator,
Okay, but the people out on the road is
17.
Okay.
17.
And how many people does it take to collect the garbage as it stands now?
Generally, we have 11 people out working on it all the time.
11?
And the study has 13 if you include the bulk pickup and the 2 mechanics.
So 11 people.
11 people handling garbage, yes.
Every day?
4 days a week, Tuesday, Monday
Okay.
through Thursday.
All right, so you want to reduce 5 full-time positions. 4
No,
part-time,
I have
3
only
full-time.
3
What?
full-time positions. 3 full-time positions.
Well,
4
the
part-
equivalent of 5 because you've got 4 part-times, right?
4 part-time with what we were discussing in the study for full automation, privatized outside, we would lose 4 part-time people, those are the buggy drivers, and 3 full-time laborers for unionized staff.
Okay, I'm just looking at it as 5, equivalent of 5 full-time, right? 4 part-time are like 2 full-time. But, okay, and so I listened to the mayor intently, and it was quite an impressive list of things that these guys do. I mean, he started out with, orange cones and wound up, I don't know, from orange cones to the pool, to all kinds of things. And my question is that we're going to reduce those people, even for the times that they're not there. Are they going to be able to handle all of that? Because that was quite an impressive list of things. So that's my question is, why would we want to reduce a workforce when there's so much to do? I understand if you take them off of trash, you got them for other things, but it doesn't seem to actually even out. And so the other question I have is, with this analysis, was there a survey of any type of analysis of the residents here?
I believe there was a survey in the past. There was not a survey as part of this study, but there was a survey done with the 2008 study.
I never got a survey, and I've lived here since the 50s. And I think it's a huge amenity to this city. I am totally against getting rid of backyard pickup. But nobody's ever asked me. So I don't know where that survey went out, and maybe that should have been done before we started to do this analysis and decide really where we should be cutting our costs.
I also did not get a survey, and I've been here since 1990.
I don't know if you have the results of that. I would love to see that. I think that would be great to post if you have the results of that survey.
There is no recent survey, and the last survey that was done was a random sampling. So it wasn't a census type survey, but a random sampling of residents, I understand. And so it would not be odd that you didn't receive it necessarily.
But there still should be some kind of results.
That may be, but it would be many years ago, and the people that live here now, I mean, you have lived here for some time, but many people who have lived here.
Well, I just heard he said 2008, so I didn't know if that's many. That's.
There was a sampling that was done on page 31 of the study. There begins the section discussing existing program improvements, the second of which is customer service, that suggests that the city should consider conducting a customer service survey. The survey could consider the following questions depending on what is suggested, on what the alternatives would be for trash pickup, and that the goal of the survey would be designed to assist the city in making decisions on any potential changes in the solid waste collection programs. So that's a good suggestion. It was one which was reached by the authors of the study as well.
So is there a plan for that?
No, there's not right now.
Why wouldn't there be if that's
Uh,
part of the survey we paid for?
It's not part of the survey. It was one of the suggestions of the survey.
All right,
There
a
were-
suggestion of the survey, right?
Correct. There were
That we paid.
several suggestions that were made as part of the program. Those begin at page 31 and extend down to the end of the survey, I believe. No, to the appendix on 35. So 31 to 35 are the suggested next steps.
Okay. So I'm sorry to take up so much time, but you know, I've heard some people here who are, you know, may have problems with taking these cans down the driveway, and in all these other cities, I understand we've seen it. What happens to disabled people that live in these houses? I have some neighbors that have to get transportation for them because they can't get out. What happens to those kind of people in those kind of houses? Is that in there at all?
As part of the presentation that was made by the company, there was a discussion on the ADA requirements that require municipalities to pick up trash in the backyard for individuals who are unable to do that. Are you able to share any mechanics of that, Jeff, how that works? Or
I don't know if that's the requirement or if the requirement is merely to provide some sort of accommodation.
That is correct. It was not an accommodation that we would continue service in the rear yard. It would be some type of accommodation for getting their garbage collected.
So looking at suggestion 3.3 on page 32, if the city transitions to curbside trash services, the city will need to provide side door services to residents that meet the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Additional residents may also be considered for side door services based on criteria related to disability, age, or capability to move containers to the curb. So that was a suggestion 3.3 of the study.
Great. Okay, that's good. So based on how many people that would be, the numbers of the amount of savings may not be exactly what you guys were talking about. So I agree with most of the early speakers here, especially Ms. Wynn Weiser. I would submit that we need to do a few things before this ever even gets more consideration. Is number one, I would like to see what the residents think. I think that you, as our council people, would want to see what the residents think. Number one. Number two, I would love to know how Shaker does it for almost $8 less per house. I would just love to know how that happens. And I think that before we do anything, we need to find at least those two things out. And I think that we need to find out why the multi-millions of dollars that were left as a surplus in the last administration is gone. And now we're talking about trying to save 300,000 here by taking away something that's, in my opinion, pretty beloved in this community. And so these are the kind of things that I think need to be answered before you guys really go any further. I don't know what this study cost, but
Like to see
the
a
good thing
survey.
about it is it opened up this discussion, and now we can find out why, because we have done no study on how to increase the efficiency on what we do. We just say, oh, this is this, we're going to get rid of it. I don't think that's right. I mean, if you want to look at backyard pickup, then let's say, okay, this is costing us this much. Why? What can we do to increase the efficiency and lower the cost like our neighbors do? And our neighbors, I can safely say probably have driveways 3 times the length of our driveways, at least mine. And so they've got a lot of ground to cover, and yet they're still almost $8 less per house. So that's the end of my thing. I think that you should not do anything until those questions are answered. And I ask you to do as such. Thanks.
Thank you, Nick. Is there anybody else that would, I saw Jim, but I think he's left. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment? Okay, I'm not
Yes,
seeing.
I'd like to, Justin.
Oh, sure.
To answer a question about how Shaker could do it for less money, they have nearly twice the households. They don't require twice the equipment, twice the number of personnel to do the job. So the cost per household is going to be less. I don't think that that's an important factor to determine whether we should do it or not. I think that we do it in order to provide a meaningful service to our residents. And there are other communities that have other choices. The other thing I'd like to say is that according to the document, the cost of the equipment as well as the operators is part of the expense that they're calculating. And if you're going to provide pickup services for those in need, then you're going to have to maintain the same kind of equipment and have personnel that can to provide the service. So I don't see that as being, in a community with as few households as we have, the end result would not be that great of a saving. That's what I'd like to say.
Yeah, Neil, I think you're probably onto something. I'm speculating, but I would tend to agree that the adjustment in cost for Shaker is one of an economy of scale. That there are more homes. They pick up trash 5 days a week, not 4, and thus the mix of the amount of equipment, the amount of staffing, and the fact that they pick up 5 days out of 4 is probably the key to the savings there. What they do to pick up is virtually identical, except for they do loose recycling in the backyards using bins, and they are equipped slightly differently than that. They don't have to use the blue bags. In order to maintain backyard recycling and do away with blue bags, we would have to change a couple things. One, I'm sure Mr. Picorni could maybe even respond better than I could on this, but one, we would need another recycling truck. We only have the one. And 2, we'd have to change the way the Kubotas are configured. But 3, that may not be practical because in some backyards, there isn't clearance to have the kind of scooter that Shaker has because some of the clearances are too tight. We can't have larger bins on the fronts of our Kubotas. That's why we have these 2 fixed cans, if you will. Jeff, maybe you could elaborate on that. I believe that's correct.
Well, it's correct with the Pepper Pike situation. They have put a larger bin on the front for recyclables, which allows them to get more into the buggy. But Shaker has split their buggy hopper into 2 separate sections. So they've also done the same with their rubbish packers on the road so that they can collect the bins into one side of the hopper of the buggy and then throw the garbage in the other. They pull up to the back of a garbage truck that has the same split. They dump the recycling on one side of the truck and the garbage on the other. I don't know that the analysis would work out the same if you were considering the cost of those types of trucks versus the trucks we have. I honestly feel we run very lean. We have part-timers without benefits doing most of the heavy lifting, collecting stuff. We have used rubbish trucks that we bought that were from New York City. They're in the year 2000 vintage, so they're about 20 years old. Our buggies have not been modified in a special way other than putting the hopper on the back of it, which is fairly inexpensive. So I don't see a lot of those costs being the issue. I would tend to agree with Neil Gould that the issue probably is simply that you're looking at a number of a cost per household, which is reduced because they have so many more households.
Thank you, Jeff. On page 14 of the study, a question was posed by Councilman Rock, which was, what would the projected cost increase be if we maintained backyard pickup for trash but added voluntary curbside recycling in small bins for loose recycling? And the projected annual savings of that, based as opposed to the 2018 numbers, was approximately $90,000. So there was a potential savings of $90,000 for that if we use the bins. Carts were recommended, however, by the analysis, because what they find is in communities that have those open recycling bins on the curb, winter weather, wind, fall winds, you get trash blowing around your neighborhood or recycled materials blowing around your neighborhood. So that's why they suggested the bins over that. But that could be read on page 13 of the study. Any other questions or comments before we close?
I have one. Yes, Shaker has more homes, but you begin to lose economies of scale as quantity increases. There is a point at which you're not going to gain a lot of savings. So a portion of that difference between Shaker and University Heights, as Neil pointed out, will be related to a larger group. But I did live in Shaker for a while. Their recycling or their backyard garbage has evolved over the years. Ours has evolved only from Cushman carts to Kabutas, with some minor modifications in the front. So my point is, I think it's still, instead of just assuming, which we seem to have done a lot of here, in terms of assuming that the only cost savings we can get is by getting rid of backyard garbage pickup. I think looking into things to verify things is always helpful. Granted, this study went along for a year almost. And during that time, additional things could have been looked into. But what we do many times is just focus on one thing and one thing only. If that is the only thing you want to resolve, and until some of these other things actually are looked at, I think you don't have a complete picture. That's all.
And some of the analysis, thank you, Wynn, some of the analysis of the comparison of routes, number of households on routes, number of employees per route, and then it is inside of the, for instance, on page 15 of the study, some of that analysis is done. So you see that Shaker Heights has 3 sanitation employees per trash route, 700 stops per route. We have 3, 450 to 500 per route. And the third backyard side door community, Pepper Pike, has 5 sanitation employees per route, 600 stops per route. So some of those analyses can be seen on that page. Anything else? Any other comments anyone else would like to address?
Yes, Justin. Phil Ertl here, Councilman.
Hi.
I just want to say briefly that I like the idea of privatizing. I didn't initially a few years ago. A few years ago, we were just looking at it as a savings, purely and simple. And a lot of that was just a one-time bang. What we're looking at now is an annual savings, and in addition, that we'd free up those servicemen to increase maintenance and that sort of thing, which was something that we hadn't really talked much about before. So I like both those aspects, and I look forward to discussing it further. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phil. There was a question about the survey that was asked. Why haven't we done the survey? Our hope, you're right. I think a door-to-door survey where everyone gets one would be one way to gather citizen comment. But we also hope to have this as a series of meetings where we'll be able to get public comment on this issue. So this will not be the last time we meet. We will have other public hearings before any decision is made. That has been a commitment that members of council have made to make sure that we get as broad an input as possible. So with that, unless there's anybody else that would like to address us, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And again, we're available by email. Our contact information is on the website, and we'll have further hearings before any decision is made. This issue is still with the committee, and before it's returned to council, we'll have at least 2 more hearings like this one. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone, for being. Appreciate it.